Welcome to Inside Farm Life, your weekly connection to agriculture newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational features, and the best in true country music. Now, here's your host, Brent Adams.
Well, welcome to Inside Farm Life Live, presented by our friends at AGCO, and I'm inviting you to stop by and see them next week at the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois. They'll be in Lot 303, showcasing their latest innovations from their Fenton, Massey, Ferguson brands. So I hope you go and check them out. Our special guest today has lived country music, and that's not just the title of his new single, but Bobby Tomberlin truly has lived country music, and we're going to talk all about that today. And Bobby, welcome in to Inside Farm Life Live.
Well, welcome, or I'm glad to be there. If I seem a little addled, made a quick little trip down the road to grab a little something. I just realized I haven't had anything today. Do you know I went to 3 places and they were all closed?
Yeah, I don't doubt it. But
It was unbelievable. That's the first time that's happened right here in my little vicinity. But yeah, I finally did grab a little something. So I'm all good now.
Things have gotten really crazy here in a short order, but you've been able to get out and do some touring, do some playing. You're up in Michigan last week, out in Carthage, Texas, a few days before that. Man, you've been in a lot of spots.
You know, it's just been a great time. So good to get back out there again and see people, talk to people, play for people. Mo Pitney and I had a great little run in Michigan last week and had some great shows, great crowds. Then Carthage, my goodness, if you've never been to the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame Awards show and their special concerts, I really advise you to do so. They have the greatest country music Hall of Fame, Texas Hall of Fame there. Tommy Ritter with the Tex Ritter family. I mean, you would not believe it. I mean, it's state of the art, and it was so fun being on that show. Tess Roselle and I sang one of her grandmother and Kenny Rogers songs, and Jeannie Seeley was there, and T.G. Shepherd, and oh gosh, it was just a great night, fun time.
Well, and I see some of those videos have been posted. Don't do it right now. Stick with us. But when you get done here, make sure you head over to YouTube and just search for Bobby Tomberlin and check out. There's a handful of those, including the song with Tess on there, and it's phenomenal. So I hope everybody will go and give that a look. Well, I tell you what, before we get going today, would you treat us to a song to kick things off?
Well, I tell you, musically, what's on my mind today is Tom T. Hall, but I'm actually proud to say that just hasn't occurred with his passing. Tom T. Hall's music's been a part of my life, my whole life. I'm not one of those guys now that he's gone, let me pay tribute. I have been sharing his music with up-and-coming songwriters for years. I listen to his music. I have vinyl, and just couldn't believe the other night in Michigan, Mo Pitney and I were at sound check, and for some reason I started singing I Love, and then he finished it, and then I went into Your Man Loves You, Honey. And as I finished at sound check, I had a text from Mike McGuire of Shenandoah, and I called him. He's like, call me as soon as you can. And he asked me if I had heard anything about Tom T passing away, and I hadn't. And it really freaked me out that we had just, sang a couple of his songs. And then Jeannie C. Riley called me and confirmed it, and just hated to hear the news. It's so important in the fabric of country music, and just, but then again, so many great songs, so much great music to live on and on and on. So I'd love to just sing a little bit of a Tom T song, if that's okay. I mean, I sang this the other night, and this is like the second time I've ever sang it, but I love the song, and it's my little tribute to him, if that's okay. Had my golf clubs on my shoulder when you saw me first today, wearing my old army sweater that you thought you threw away. When you saw me standing there, you shook your head and sighed. When you saw I'd bought a 6-pack, thought you were gonna cry. Your man loves you, honey, and I don't know what else to say. Your man loves you, honey, but but you can't change my way. Now before you get angry, just remember what I did. I went to church with you last Sunday, took your mama and the kids. Sat right up and heard the preacher, even wore my Christmas tie. I'm not much on organ music, 5-string banjos, more my style. And your man loves you, honey. I don't know what else to say. And your man loves you, honey, but you can't change my way. Well, you ought to have a knight in armor in the castle fair, not some restless cowboy, faded jeans, shaggy hair. I can't make it, babe, without you. You know it's true. Keep me around for laughs. I've been good for one or two. And your man loves you, honey. I don't know what else to say. Your man loves you, honey, but you can't change my way.
Such a beautiful song there. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
I love his conversational lyric.
It's been such a it's been quite a week here, you know, with the passing of Tom T and Don Everly, and then yesterday Charlie Watts here, who kind of paying homage to today. Man, it's been quite a week.
I heard a great podcast that featured Tom T. Hall, his last interview, and I was listening to it late last night. And he told the funniest story. It made me laugh so hard out loud. He said he was dabbling in songwriting, and, you know, he was working at a radio station up north, I think maybe in Kentucky. I'm not sure. He's from Kentucky. But he said this guy came by one day, and he was sitting there, you know, typing out copy for commercials. And he says, this guy says, hey, I know a few people in Nashville. I'll take some of your songs if you'll, you know, sing them, put them on a reel-to-reel, and give me the lyrics. And the guy took them to Nashville. And then he gets a call from a publishing company that's owned by Dave Dudley, Jimmy C. Newman, and Jimmy Keys. And I think it was Jimmy Keys that asked, did you write these songs by yourself? He says, yeah. He said, I thought so. He said, well, you need to stay away from this guy. This guy is actually wanted. The police are after him. He's actually taken songwriters' royalty checks out of their mailboxes and has stolen them. And I just, yeah, you know, and Tom T on the interview, he says, well, I was discovered by a criminal.
Everybody's got to make their own path, I guess, huh?
Yeah, but I'm like, wow. No, that's one of the most crazy stories I've ever heard.
Man, I tell you what, was you know, you got your new single out here, and if they ever made a movie of you, man, I don't know what it'd be, because Forrest Gump has already been done here, so we might have to change it just a little bit here. But another guy out of Alabama, Luverne, Alabama, to be exact, population 2770, and self-proclaimed the friendliest city in the South. Man, country music has been in your blood since the beginning. Tell me a bit about your earliest childhood memories and recollections of country music.
Oh, gosh, I can't remember a time when country music wasn't in my life. I mean, I'm told by, I know my cousin Glenda, she always says, oh, you were standing on a tree stump singing Hank Williams' I Saw the Light when you were 3 years old. I can remember having a little, you know, toy guitar, then a real guitar, and just totally consumed with the music. You know, loved great songs, you know, Glenn Campbell, Merle Haggard, and just, you know, all the greats. And, you know, I was really blessed. I recognized really great songs at an early age, and, you know, went to concerts, again, small town, beautiful town, friendly people. I mean, they really are. It may be the friendliest city in the South. But had a make-believe radio station in my bedroom. I've told that story many times. I had a stack of records, and I would do the weather forecast. And one Saturday morning at the Western Auto Store, I don't know how many of you remember Western Auto stores, but downtown Luverne, there was a Western Auto. And my dad and I were in there, and Mr. Joe Rex Sport, who I'm proud to say is still alive and well in Luverne, he was the superintendent of education, and he also owned the local radio station, WLVN, 1080 on your AM dial. And my dad just says, Bobby is just ate up with music and radio, and can he come down to the radio station? So that afternoon, Mr. Sport let me come down, and his son let me cue up a record I'll never forget. It was off the Hank Williams Jr. and Friends album, a song called Montana Song, and that was the first record I ever queued up and played on the radio. And from there, I worked at that station through high school, and then worked at a couple of more stations, Andalusia and Muscle Shoals, Alabama. A box of them about a month ago.
Oh, wow.
And there were some that I thought were gone, like Merle Kilgore and Bill Anderson and David Allen Coe, Bobby Bear, and Fair and Young. And I was just so happy that they still played. And I'm definitely going to have those, put over to a CD, put on a CD.
Oh, wow. And I imagine for the most part, even though you're a young guy, folks were pretty gracious to you.
Oh, yeah. And, my voice, it's kind of funny. At 12, 13, it had already gotten kind of low. So they didn't realize they were talking to a 12 or 13-year-old. Now, when I would go to the concerts, my dad or mom, my dad, I remember taking me to an Alabama. I mean, when they were like just so red hot. I remember the closer you get to her, they came to Montgomery. And he went with me, and we walked into this press conference, and all the other jocks are just looking like this kid. And I remember asking what turned out to be the best question of the day for Randy O. And he looked bored, and then he was like, "No, okay, that's something I want to talk about." I felt so cool at that point. But
do you remember what the question was?
Well, it was about their June Jam. I mean, it wasn't like the most brilliant question.
Yeah.
He wanted to talk about their June Jam and the money that it raised for special kids and other charities, and that's really what he wanted to talk about and spread the word about. But I remember going to see Conway and Loretta and Hank Jr. numerous times, and Charlie Pride, and we had this big Hank Williams festival, and it literally the stage was set up at the birthplace where the old shack used to be, the old home of Hank Sr., where he was born. And that was the first concert I ever went to. It was Hank Jr., the second show he did after the mountain fall. And I was just blown away. He came out there and, he turned that volume to 12 and did Sweet Home Alabama. And I'm like, never heard this before. And that really changed my life.
And not that the world doesn't need another radio personality, but I think you've done pretty okay for yourself, all things considering here. One of the things we haven't talked about in previous interviews, and something that I know our ag crowd here will find fascinating, is the fact that in high school you were a member of an FFA string band. What was that experience like, and what kind of doors did that open up for you?
I told this recently in an interview. If it wasn't for the FFA string band, I don't know that I ever would have seriously got into songwriting. I had dabbled in it, but when I joined the FFA string band, we had an amazing advisor. His name was Wyndham Pittman. He passed away 3 or 4 years ago, but I was really shy. I was hiding behind a microphone, and I was like really shy at school. I mean, even going into the lunchroom, I'd kind of like just have my head down. And then Mr. Pittman, he was told by another band member, Joey Johnson, he says, "Well, Bobby plays and he sings." And I don't know how he even knew that, to be honest with you. But he did. And Mr. Pittman just informed me, as numerous members of the band were graduating, that year. He said, "Next year, your senior year, you're going to be one of the lead singers and the lead guitar player." And I'm like, okay. And when we started doing that, and we played everything from parades to beauty pageants to street dances to the Kiwanis Club meetings. It just really lit the fire, and I started writing songs, and we worked up, a couple of them, and I realized quickly they weren't really any good, but it really lit the fire, and we ended up winning the regional and then going to state and doing well, and then we went to the national convention in Kansas City, Missouri, and I knew then I had to be, had to come to Nashville eventually.
Uh, so outside of that, what did FFA bring to the table for you, and how did that experience help you in life?
Well, I know that conventions were great, being there and seeing all the other members, and and seeing where we were in the string band competition. As there's all kinds of competitions, and mainly it was music for me, but at the same time we did do some farm stuff, and we worked with greenhouses, and to me it was just about, it may have been the most important thing. Well, as far as a career, it was the most important subject that I was that I had, but not only that, but just learning about character and about just being a good person. I mean, it's just like FFA represents all good things to me. And Alan Waters, he's another guy that's worked with the Alabama FFA. He has been so kind to me, and he invited me maybe 6 years ago to start taking part in the state convention in Montgomery. Now, the past couple of years, due to the pandemic, we haven't been able to go there, but I got to go back there, and I was able to honor my FFA advisor, Mr. Wyndham Pittman, before he passed away, some of the other string band members like Mark Cooper and Lisa Rowland, who are probably watching down in Alabama. Waller Martin, he was really active that year. So anyway, we all got together and we were able to go and really honor him. And I told all of those kids what FFA meant to me, what it had done for me, and what my advisor had done for me. And that's one of the best days of my life, getting to go back there and honor him.
I love that. And you talk about people watching here today. We want to say a special hello to a couple people. Lisa Rowling, who's watching from Luverne, Alabama. So
I knew it. She was in the FFA band.
Oh, excellent.
She was in the string band. I remember. I can tell you what she sang. She sang Anne Murray, A Little Good News, and Just Another Woman in Love. Isn't that fun?
I love it. Yeah, it's amazing what sticks out to you.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, just a very important part of my life, and I'm there. I mean, anytime they need me, I'm at the convention, and I'm glad to spread the word about FFA.
A couple other people watching. RD Yit watching from Hyde Park, New York, checking in. Hey to you, and also Russell McWilliams checking in today. So hey, and thank you to everybody who's looking in here today.
Russell is actually a really good songwriter. He's over in Georgia, and I've been blessed to do a few Hank Williams songwriter workshops. Opry star Jan Howard, she went and did one with me. Great writers like Bill LaBounty, Lance Miller, and Whispering Bill Anderson did one. And Russell has always been there, and it's been really cool to watch his growth.
So I know we have talked about it before, but for the benefit of this audience who has not had a chance to meet you, many of them, take me through the path from Luverne, Alabama to Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, I'll try to make it quick. I don't want to get too long-winded, but okay, I'll just be honest with you. After the FFA experience, my dad came up here to Nashville with me. And we drove down Music Row, and I didn't know anyone, didn't know how to get in those buildings. And I'll be honest with you, I went back and thought, I think I'm going to stay in radio. And I was going to go to work at a radio station in Greenville, Alabama. And then I got a call from a lady by the name of Edna. She was Hank Williams' first cousin. And I had known her. She had brought me milkshakes when I was a kid at the radio station. And she just insisted that I go to another town, Andalusia. And she says, we know the manager. That station is a big 100,000 watt station. And I'm like, no, I'm going to, this other station. And she insisted, nope, you're going to go. And she and her husband drove me insisted that I go to this station to talk to the manager. They needed someone. I walk in, and you got to remember, I had given up on my dream of songwriting. I walk in, and the manager says, see that guy now behind the glass on the FM side? There was an AM and FM. He said, his name is Billy Henderson. He's had success and had several songs recorded, and he writes for Fame Publishing in Muscle Shoals, Rick Hall. And he said he's down here taking care of his parents, and he's going to be going back in a couple of months. But in the meantime, we can put you on the AM, and then when he leaves, we'll move you over to the FM. Well, during that time, he became my songwriter mentor. I started like writing again. I pitched him ideas, and he, and he started working on them. And then before I knew it, I had my first demo, which is, for people that don't know, a demonstration recording of a song to pitch to artists. And it was done at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals. And most of the band members on that session ended up being members of Shenandoah. So I end up, writing, and Billy went back to Muscle Shoals. Then he contacted me and he said, WLAY, Sherry St. John, they're looking for someone to do the afternoon show. And then I went, had a meeting, and next thing you know, I'm off to Muscle Shoals. I'm roommates with Billy and Mike McGuire, Shenandoah. They were just getting started. And then, started writing with people in that community, including one person, Jim Martin, who has had a lot of songs recorded, and he lives here in Nashville. And he left Muscle Shoals, and I remember thinking, man, why are you leaving here? And he ended up coming to Nashville and was an intern with Mel Tillis. And Mel liked our songs, liked his songs too, but liked ours. I came up here for one of the demo sessions, and they offered me a deal, $100 a week. So I gave my 1 week notice, and then off to Nashville I came and worked at a Kroger grocery store at night. And, and people like Conway Twitty and Brooks and Dunn, Diamond Rio, Crystal Gale, they would come through my checkout line. But anyway, that's my story of my ticket from Luverne to Muscle Shoals to Nashville.
What a great story that I saw you share here in the build up to the single release was how Mel once nearly cost you your job working at Kroger, but then was able to save it by sending a note to the manager.
Oh gosh, I would give anything if I had that excuse that Mel wrote. Yeah, one day Mel was in the office from Branson. He had his theater, and it was just really going strong at that time. But he would come into Nashville, fly in, and be here on Mondays at the office. And he was getting ready to record a gospel record, and he wanted Owen Bradley, the father of Music Row Studios. He built the first studio on Music Row, produced Patsy Cline, Loretta, Ernest Tubb, Conway Twitty, and so many more, Bill Anderson. And anyway, Mel wanted Owen to be involved in this project, and Mel says, hey, you want to ride out to Owen Bradley's? And I'm thinking, I would give anything to go out there, but I have to go to Kroger at 4:00. And he says, well, I'll write you an excuse. And I didn't even call in, and we went out to Owen Bradley's, and I got to witness some great conversation and great old stories. And so I was like 4.5 hours late. And when we got back to the office, Mel wrote the excuse and said, please excuse Bobby. I needed him. And I walked in, and I'll never forget the lady. Her name was Miss Tanner, and she was not happy. And I handed her the excuse, and I said, I'm so sorry. And she says, oh, Mel Tillis. I love Mel Tillis. Oh, it's fine. It's fine, honey.
Oh, man. Yeah, that'd be something to get that note back, wouldn't it?
Oh, I wish I had it. I wish I'd have made a copy of it at least.
We need to make a quest to see if that's still floating around out there somewhere.
A long time ago.
And I tell you what, in the new song, you chronicle so many of the amazing figures that you've encountered. We're not just talking about meet and greets or superficial relationships, but honest to goodness connections with the who's who of music greats. When I listen to this, like you just kind of walked through the Country Music Hall of Fame and just started pulling names off of plaques and dropping them into the song. But these are the people that found their way into your sphere of influence there in Nashville. I want to talk about some of them individually here. You know, you talk about singing with the great Loretta Lynn. What do you remember about that experience?
Honestly, being really scared. Um, Her sweet friend and lady who's worked with her for many years, Rosie Hamilton. I've known Rosie for a long time, and I wrote a song with Loretta a few years ago. But Rosie very randomly asked me, "Would you come and sing Conway and Loretta duet at her 4th of July celebration?" And this was like, you know, maybe a 17-hour notice. And of course, I was going to do that. I mean, how do you not sing with Loretta? But
Yeah.
we were going to rehearse, and of course, in grand Loretta style, when I got there, you know, she was like, "Oh, no need to rehearse." And I had never sang with her. And, you know, in front of that many people, it was packed. You know, you want to really do a good job. But we had the key picked. And then when I walk out there, they had dropped it a step.
Oh,
And it was, I went as low as I could go. You know, instead of "once I made a promise," it was like, "once I made a promise." So really channeling Conway. But you know what? It turned out great. It was so special. And the next morning afterward, you know, I started thinking about all the cool things that I've been blessed to do. And you mentioned, you know, it's like walking through the Hall of Fame. It kind of is. And the wildest thing about this is I've never chased any of this. I mean, like Mel Tillis signing me to a deal. I didn't even think I was going to come to Nashville. And, you know, and then I'm sound engineer with Bill Anderson. That happened very randomly. I wrote a couple of songs with him. Then he's asking me to be a sound engineer. And I'm like, well, I'm not technical, but I know how the show's, you know, how the music's supposed to sound. I can sure slide those faders. And through that job, you know, I ended up knowing Jeannie Seeley, Little Jimmy Dickens, and so many of these greats. So yeah, it's been very organic.
when you talk about writing songs with the Hall of Fame songwriter Bill Anderson, with whom we also had the opportunity to tour, what about his friendship do you cherish, and what have you learned about the craft of songwriting from him?
Oh gosh, we could do a whole show on my feelings about Bill. Number one, just one of the kindest guys that I've ever known in the business, outside the business. I mean, he truly, truly cares. I mean, he's the kind of guy who will call me and just, you know, after losing my mom last year, you know, he called during that time and like he'll just randomly call, "Hey, I'm just checking on you and checking on your dad." So, and he's like that with his friends. I mean, that's Bill. And but just also the thing I love about Bill Anderson is he's been in the business since the late 50s and has continued to get songs recorded. You know, he started out with Ray Price, but during his career, you know, Aretha Franklin, James Brown, Bing Crosby, Conway Twitty, Connie Smith. I mean, we could go on and on and on. But Bill didn't get locked in one. I mean, he's true to himself. Now, don't get me wrong, but he has learned to change a little bit with the times and just be open and work with younger writers and just learn. And of course, there's so much to learn from him. And you know, and now you look at his career, and you're talking Brad Paisley, Alison Krauss, Kenny Chesney, Brett Eldridge. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And I've been blessed to have several songs that we've written, recorded, and actually just had a couple of new recordings on a couple of new cuts on a couple of them. And I can't talk about it, but I cannot wait to share the news. But he's fired up. He comes into the writing room and he is just, it's like, you know, it's like 1964. He's fired up. And then in the midst of it, you'll get some great stories about riding in a car with Patsy Cline to a concert, or him and Roger Miller being roommates. And it's just priceless. Again, I keep saying, "Oh, that's a highlight. That's a highlight," but it's one of the highlights for me of my life is the friendship and also the writing relationship with Bill Anderson.
He's a guy we've never had on the show here, so once he gets that new music out, we need to get him on here to talk about some of those
Well,
experiences.
I'll help you on that.
There we go.
You can count on me.
Well, you mentioned little Jimmy Dickens earlier. That was another special bond. You know, he was such a fixture at the Grand Ole Opry for so many years. How did you meet him, and how did that bond develop?
Well, through Bill, we would do a lot of shows together. And then when we would go to the hotel, Jimmy wasn't ready to call it a night, and he and I would end up just hanging out. And next thing you know, that led to, Bobby, would you mind coming over and help me put up Christmas lights? He would, put up this massive Christmas display every year. Next thing you know, hey, do you mind going with me on a trip to Albuquerque? His tour managers and sweet guy, Robbie, sometimes couldn't go. And I'm like, sure, I will. And then the last year of his life, if I were in town, I would drive him out to the Opry. And I actually drove him to the last performance at the Opry. And I was with him a couple of days before he passed in the hospital. And I really thought he was going to make it. He was up walking, and I was like helping him walk. And I'll never forget, he wanted to be shaved. And so I went to Target and got an electric razor, and I shaved him. And I've never done that before, but I hope I don't cut him, But
now that's living country music right there.
Oh, I'm telling you. And I remember that day, that last time that I was with him at the hospital, I remember pulling up on YouTube footage of him and Merle Haggard at the Ryman, and he would just look at it and hold it. And I remember pulling up a Hank Williams piece, and he and Hank. Now, here's another story for you. The last trip to the Ryman, as we were driving to the Ryman, he looked up at me and he said, Bobby, you don't know about missing someone until you've missed them for over 60 years. He says, I miss Hank Williams as much today as I did in 1953.
I tell you, and that's powerful, and that's a great segue to what I wanted to ask you about next, and that is kind of the familial bond that you've developed with the legendary Williams family, because we've mentioned before, you're from the heart of Hank Williams country, but you've developed a really close relationship with that whole family, with Hank Sr.'s sister Lucretia and her husband, also Hank Williams Jr. and his children, and you've served as a mentor to Sam along the way, and he's doing some big things now. What does that whole family and that legacy mean to you?
It's really hard to put into words. I kind of getting emotional, actually, even thinking about it, because I don't think about it that much. And the way you just presented it, I guess what I'm thinking about is growing up in my hometown, how at an early age, people would say, oh, Hank Williams played there at that school. He played at the community center. He played at the theater, which is now a hardware store. Or he played at the Chevrolet dealership, and that building is still standing there. And I can't tell you how much that lit a fire under me. I think when I say lit a fire, I think that was the beginning, because I looked at it like, wow, he actually went to Nashville. He actually had songs recorded by Tony Bennett and other artists, and he was from just down the road. And, I mentioned the cousin Edna. I think what really got me emotional was thinking about Hank Sr.'s first cousin Edna, how it just hit me how if she hadn't have insisted that I go to that radio station in Andalusia where I met my songwriting mentor, I really don't think I would have pursued it. I really had stopped writing. And so I just feel like, yeah, it's meant so much in so many ways to me. And then, Hillary and Holly, I witnessed the car accident they had, and how Hillary went through over 30 surgeries and fought so hard, died twice, came back. And she never complains. You never hear her complain, but I know she's in a lot of pain. And then I'm also, I guess I get emotional thinking about Katie, that we lost last year. And I'm at my desk, and here's her signature and a little armband. and her husband Tyler actually stayed here at my place just maybe 4 or 5 months before she passed away, and it's just still hard to believe that she's gone. But she was just like an angel. And then of course Sam, he is. I've never seen anyone grow so fast with their songwriting. I saw him as a kid. Took him to like a Gwen Stefani concert when he was just a little boy. I'll never forget when the concert was over. You know, people had thrown their popcorn boxes down in their Coke cups. And he was like, we can't go. We can't leave yet. We have to clean up. And then the arena downtown, thousands of people. And he just insisted for a few minutes. And I said, okay, buddy, you know, and I helped. I picked up a few things too. And I said, you know, they have people to do that and they're wanting us to leave the building. And at that moment, I thought, this kid, I mean, who even thinks that way? And then, you know, he reached out to me again. This is organic. This isn't me going out trying to contact him. He reached out to me on Instagram, and I had seen him, you know, as he grew up and so forth, but it had been 3 or 4 years. And he reached out to me and just said, Bobby, would you mind? I don't want to bother you, but would you take me over to the NSAI, the Nashville Songwriters Association, and introduce me to Bart Herbison? And I said, absolutely. And it didn't take me long to realize what a special gift he had. And we have done a lot of stuff together. I was with him on stage the night of his debut at the Opry. I played with him at the Ryman. I've, you know, first appeared, well, just 2 weeks ago on WSM on the morning show with Bill Cody and Charlie. We've been to Alaska, Michigan. I can't even start naming states, but came back to my hometown of Luverne and did a hometown show. Been to Hank Sr.'s childhood home and sat on the front porch and sang Hank Williams songs. And I could go on and on and on. And then Hank Jr., you know, just, you know, a lot of people don't realize what a really, really good guy he is and what a tender heart he has. And especially someone who literally has been in the spotlight their whole life. You know, think about it. I mean, Hank Jr. was pushed out on stage. There's a legendary picture of him where little Jimmy Dickens is pushing him and his boots are like up in the air, like, I don't want to go. And I just think it's amazing that he has just, you know, survived and succeeded and just I talked to him earlier today and he said there was 11,000 people at his show over the weekend. And he's like, just unbelievable. He said, and I'm proud for him because it's been a tough time, you know. I've got to share something. This is like show and tell. But this, speaking of Hank Sr., this is some studio. What do you call this? What's the word? You know,
is that some tiles? Is that from the ceiling, or is that just
No, it's actually, you know, when you have you know, you'd think that I would know what this is called, but I'm going kind of having a brain.
Just kind of the sound baffle.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. But anyway, that's a piece from the old WSFA studio in Montgomery. There's pictures of this behind Hank and Audrey and the Drifting Cowboys. This is from the studio where Hank Williams, you know, morning show for 10 years in Montgomery. And that building is still there. And someone gave me this as a gift just a few years ago. And, you know, and that studio is where he sang Honky Tonkin' I Saw the Light, Honky Tonk Blues, Moving On Over the first time.
And you become a really nice ambassador of sorts too for the Hank Williams Museum there in Montgomery, Alabama, where you've done quite a few live stream shows and tours and performances in front of that legendary blue Cadillac. What does that place mean to you?
Well, it means a lot too, because Daryl and Beth Petty, you know, her dad, Daryl and Beth, their father started that museum, and Merle Kilgore was involved, and of course had Hank Jr.'s endorsement. And you know, they have so many of the suits, shirts, boots, royalty statements, the blue Cadillac that Hank Sr. passed in, and you just have to go there. I mean, I can't even put it into words, and it does mean a lot to me. I was so glad to be able to to help out last year, and we did 11 Facebook Lives there to help, sell memorabilia, sell T-shirts, lifetime memberships, to keep it going during the pandemic. And I was glad to help, because they've been really, really kind to me.
And all those were phenomenal. And I tell you, as soon as all this starts to settle down and we can kind of get out and about a bit, hopefully in the new year, that's one of the places I would love to take a live taping and bring some artists in there, because I know there's a ton of great artists that need to be heard out of that area.
Please do that. I'll help you.
I'm looking forward to it, because I personally have not had a chance to go in there, but just seeing all the stuff you've done with them and taking the virtual tours and everything, I'm chomping at the bit to get down there.
That's great.
I'll tell you what, we've been chatting for a while, man. Before we go any further, would you share another song with us?
Well, I will try, after getting kind of choked up there. Kind of caught me off guard. But you know what? I was just sitting here at my desk, which I don't do very often, and was just looking at a lyric of a song that I wrote with Waylon Payne just before the pandemic. Waylon is the son of Sammy Smith, helped me make it through the night. Waylon's a great artist, a great writer. He's had songs recorded by people like Leanne Womack, and he was a great actor too. He was in Walk the Line. He played Jerry Lee Lewis's part. But anyway, this is a song we wrote, and I need to get in the studio and record this and start pitching it. It's very simple. The day we wrote, I said, let's write something simple, just like something like your mother would sing. And we turned the recorder on, and this has happened very few times in my life, but the lyrics, just, I would sing a lyric, a line or two, then he would sing a couple of lines, and then we had the song finished. And like I said, it's very simple, but it's just cool. So I'm going to do this today. Waylon Payne and I wrote this. I know you're scared. Well, darling, I am too. If we could just take a step, we may end up taking two. Who knows where the night will end? And who knows where it started? And who knows where we're headed to? Would you like to know? We weren't made to be alone. But if we could just be alone, I'd show you what you've never known. I could show you love. There may be a time or two I may want to run away from you, but if you'll only let me in, I could show you love. We weren't made to be alone, but if we could just be alone, I'd show you what you've never known. I would show you love. There may be a time or two I may want to run away from you, if you'll only let me in. Well, I could show you love, if you'll only let me in. I could show you love.
Well, now you're hitting me in the feels, man.
Oh, yeah?
You, I might have to take a second to compose myself. You need to get in the studio right now and get that thing cut.
It's really, it's funny. I'm glad maybe that's another little God wink today, because I hadn't looked at that song. I haven't said here in a while, and I just started going through papers, and I found that lyric, and I thought, I'm going to sing that today.
Oh man, I'm glad you did, man. Great song there. Great song. And we talk about you rubbing elbows with some of the legendary country music figures. You've proven yourself to be in that same echelon as a songwriter, and I might add also as a singer. We'd be here all day if we rattled off the folks who cut your songs, and name a few: the Oak Ridge Boys, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Terry Clark, Jeannie Seeley, Blake Shelton, and Jamie Johnson. But the one that really put you on the map was the co-write of Diamond Rio's One More Day. What has the success of that song meant to your career?
Well, it changed everything for me, because, I always tell people it's not normal. You come here, you're working at Kroger, or you're making. She is calling. Sorry, Rosie.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, it isn't normal. You're working at Kroger, you're making such a small paycheck to write songs, and all of a sudden no one has paid attention to you. And then you get a song on the radio, and in the case of One More Day, I mean, it was really, really, as the guy at BMI says, he said, that's like 4 hits. And because it crossed over into the AC chart, and your life changes literally like in 1 week. Just crazy.
So you've been a songwriter for many, many years. When you wrote that particular song, did it feel like just another day at the office, or did it really feel like, man, we really got something here?
No, it didn't feel like another day at the office. I started that song during the holiday season one year, and just started thinking about people that were no longer in my life. And the first verse pretty much fell out, and it was very emotional. And I wasn't even thinking about writing a song, but I realized there was something special there. And I put it on a little recorder, and I wish I still had that word tape, but I was writing with my dear friend, Stephen Dale Jones, who I had met in Muscle Shoals in previous years. And I played it for him, and he just totally got it. He understood it. He connected with it, and off we went, and we finished it. And it wasn't long before that song was recorded. And I never dreamed that it was going to do what it did. I thought we had a shot at a hit, but man, it's just, we started getting so many letters and emails from people saying they'd used it for memorial services, and how it made them think of a child that, they had lost. And that was pretty heavy. That was a lot. Again, going from no attention to, getting Grammy nominations, CMA nominations, ACM, NSAI awards. That's a lot to go through. And, I'm proud to say I didn't get any big ego from it, but it did change my life. It was literally like going, doing sound for a show up in Pennsylvania for Bill, and then just 2 months later, a #1 party, and the great Eddie Arnold is coming in giving a speech, that wasn't even part of the program. And it was very emotional, and had so many friends, people that had just kind of been rooting for me for a long time. And it just meant it was a special day. It was so special, but it did change my life. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane going to LA to write with Mac Davis, a childhood musical hero. I'm writing with Paul Williams. I meet Steve Dorff, who also changed my life in many ways. Such a great songwriter. And I had been a fan of his work for a long time, and he knew One More Day. And then he was like, yeah, let's get together. And then all of a sudden, talking about families that mean a lot to you, like the Williams family, well, the Dorff family, his son, Andrew, was like a little brother to me. And of course, we lost Andrew just like 4 or 5 years ago. And Stephen, the other son, we've ended up doing a movie together, and Chris Christopherson was a part of it. So, I mean, the common thread here is, just, you never know what's around the corner, and you never know what a new friendship is going to lead to. And I don't mean success. I don't necessarily mean getting songs cut, but that is part of the equation sometimes.
Well, we mentioned earlier the new single "I've Lived Country Music," which is out now. When did you sit down and reflect on your life and say, I really need to put this into song?
The morning after I sang with Loretta Lynn. That song was one of the easiest songs I've ever written because, as Tom T. Hall always said, it's not that hard when you write the truth. And that was definitely the case with that song. And the problem with that song is I had to leave out a lot of names. And even when the video was put together, unfortunately, there's a lot of people, and I'm not talking about country artists. I'm talking about other people that along the way that have helped me. But this video, the one thing that I wanted to have is not just the biggest icons, but just everyone from a childhood friend to my FFA advisor to my Uncle Robert, who's in one of the early pictures, who showed me the first chords on the guitar, to, and then pictures, of course, with Dolly and Hank Jr. and different people, Merle Haggard. I didn't know Merle, never worked with him, but I did get to shake his hand one day and tell him how much, his words meant to me. So.
And it was cut in the legendary Muscle Shoals.
Billy Lawson produced it. And Billy has had a lot of success as a writer and producer. He's been cutting a lot of people down there lately. But it's at the legendary Wishbone Studios where Hank Jr. cut Family Tradition. It's where the people like the Temptations recorded there, Lionel Richie. And here lately, Sammy Kershaw, I think Randy Owen is going in. T. Graham Brown just cut a blues record there. Mm. And it's the magic that never dies. As long as it's there, somebody's going to come and record. That's just the way it is.
Well, it's incredible work, and I want to share it with our viewers now. This is Bobby Tomberlin with "I've Lived Country Music." Sit back and enjoy this one.
Down in Alabama, in a 2 red light town, my world revolved around the radio. And in my little bedroom, the Opry came alive. And in my mind, I was on the front row. I counted down the years till I could drive that old highway to the city where all my dreams could come true. There's been a lot of hard times, but they were all worth it as I look back at all the things I have got to do. Well, I sang with Loretta, wrote songs with Whispering Bill. I even got to play Hank's guitar. Rode the roads with little Jimmy, shook hands with Johnny Cash. Funny how a dream can take you far. I poured my heart and soul into it. Yes, I've lived country music. I sold groceries to Conway Twitty when I first came to Nashville. And Mel Tillis paid my rent. And I got to tell Merle Haggard how much his songs meant to me. I swear his words were heaven sent. I was at the Ryman with Bo Cephas in a small room with Glenn Campbell. He played Galveston and I sang along. Had a smoke with Christopherson. Willie Nelson sang my song. I hung out with old George Jones at his home. I poured my heart and soul into it. Yes, I've lived country music. ate biscuits and gravy with Porter Wagner, wrote a song with Bobby Bear, heard Phil Everly sing Dream in his living room, was with Eddie Arnold in his last days. I played on the Opry stage, and I could feel the spirit of Hank Williams in that room. I've given my heart and soul to it. Yes, I've lived country music. Yes, I've lived country music. Yes, I've lived country music. And I've lived country music.
Oh man, I get goosebumps watching that. That is special.
Thank you so much. And boy, it was so special. Almost 3 weeks ago, I celebrated the release day of the song and the video in my hometown at the local library, and had some very, very close friends and some family members come out. And it was so special being there that day and getting to show the video, there in my hometown. You can't beat that.
And I tell you, we talk about the single, I've Lived Country Music. At the same time, you're writing the success. That song, another writing credit out there that's really special. The great Barbra Streisand recently had an album with the song called I Want It to Be You, which is a duet with another icon, Willie Nelson. How surreal is that?
Very. I definitely didn't expect that. I will have to be honest. I didn't grow up thinking about Barbra Streisand singing any of my songs. Totally just overwhelmed when Steve Dorff called me and told me that was going to be coming out. That was a hard one to believe, but I was sure excited. I mean, they say she's the most successful female vocalist now, as far as chart numbers and the years that she's been in the business and record sales. And, and then Willie Nelson. I mean, the way I look at that, that's the guy that wrote Crazy for Patsy Cline or Hello Walls for Fair and Young. And just to think he would even sing a line of one of my songs is just, and again, I say all of this in a humble way. I'm very grateful. The one hesitation I had about the song I've Lived Country Music, I didn't want anyone to think, it's a song of like, look who I've hung out with, look what I've done. It's just from a very humble place of saying, hey, I'm from a very small 2-light town that I dreamed and just can't believe it happened. And it's not that I've wrote songs or shared a stage with all of those icons. I sold groceries to Conway Twitty. I got to shake Johnny Cash's hand. But just so happens I did get to write songs with Phil Everly and Bill Anderson too. So it's just, again, Streisand and Willie, just, I don't know, very grateful, very thankful.
Well, for anybody who spent more than 5 minutes with you, I think it'd be very apparent to know that this comes from a humble place here, because you're as kind and humble of a man. I guess I wouldn't expect anything different from anybody from Luverne, Alabama, the friendliest place in the South End, to be that way. But man, for one, don't take it that way at all. The song, from what I understand, took a little while for it to see the light of day, though, huh?
Yeah, because I kind of looked at it like, well, number one, I knew no one else was going to record my story. Oh, no, you're talking about the Willie song.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No. Yeah, it did. Originally they went in and tried it a few years ago, but due to schedules and everything, it just didn't work out. I had a cut by Barbara and Blake Shelton on her Partners CD, but this one never came together until this past year, and it couldn't have come along at a better time during a pandemic when nothing was happening. So that was really a gift from God.
Well, you mentioned the pandemic. I mean, this last year and a half has really been a roller coaster for all of us, particularly for yourself, not only dealing with COVID, but your sweet mother, who you mentioned earlier, passed away. What did she instill in you that you still carry with you each day?
Oh God, just the true definition of being a friend, to people, and kindness, and just honesty, and just be loving. I mean, that's what I got from my mother. That's the way she always was, and it's just still hard to believe she's gone. And yeah, it was a rough year, but I just what do? You got to keep on moving ahead. And I lost a lot of good friends in the business, not in the business, from my hometown area, and it really. I'm not going to say that I just plowed through it very easily, because I haven't. I mean, there's still days that I have to really fight hard through all of the loss, and just trying to, again, to get through it. You just don't lose your mom. You don't lose friends like the great Aaron Wilburn, who I talk to every week, or sweet people like Katie Williams. I mean, those people don't, Jan Howard, who was blessed with a long life, but she was a really good friend. I mean, we had dinner, every couple of months. I mean, so it's just, it's just another world, in a lot of ways. Mac Davis, I still can't believe we lost him. That was so sudden, it seemed like.
Well, and right before your mother's passing, your folks had a fire, and that was a trying time. How's your dad doing?
You know what? He's really strong. He's hanging in there. He's really blessed with such a strong support system. The church there at South Luverne, those people are so wonderful. And they're really there. They show up. They come by. Oh, here's a pie, here. Oh, we brought you this plate from the chicken shack. And I have some, I don't have a big family left. I mean, I'm an only child. And, but anyway, he's blessed. Some wonderful cousins that live right there down the street. Actually, this couple, this cousin and his wife, who are wonderful. And then one that lives across the street, and she's been a neighbor for 50 years.
Wow.
And so he's very blessed. And, and I try to get down there every time I can, because he does. I need it too, though. Not just him. I mean, I need support as well. You can't do this alone.
Yes. And it sounds like that your parents were very supportive of you as you were coming up and chasing these country music dreams that you had.
They were. I was one of those kids. I'd go to the store, and I didn't go to the toy department. I went to the record rack, and it was a safe time when you could leave your kid at the record rack, and they would say, okay, we'll be back in 30 minutes, or, then go shopping. And I would sit there and try to pick out one record, during that time. And God, those were magical times.
I know exactly what you speak of. And that's, those were definitely beautiful times. What's next on the horizon for you?
Well, actually, I'm still living country music. I'm actually headed to the ACM Honors tonight. I'm going to watch my buddy Sam Williams sing "I Am So Lonesome I Could Cry," and then sing it on the Ryman stage where his granddad performed. And that's going to be special. But, I've got some more shows coming up, writing appointments, and I'll be going back in the studio to cut some more stuff and more music, and just kind of keep on doing what I'm doing. And I just want to say thanks to everyone who's watching. I appreciate your comments on social media. I don't look at you just like another number or another like. It means a lot. It means a lot to me. Again, it's support. You're friends, and that's what I feel from you. And I appreciate everyone who comes to the shows. And so it's all good. It's really all good.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate you saying that. We want to send a shout out to Sue Balmer, who's watching and dropped some nice comments on there. So thank you much to Sue. Yvonne Atkinson watching, Betty Tiemann checking in, Tess Frizzell behind the scenes watching. We need to get her on the show one of these days.
You really do need to get her on. She talking about Sam being a natural songwriter. Well, she is too. I couldn't believe those two have literally blown me away. And, the funny thing about Tess, I don't think I'm really a songwriter. Well, yeah. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and you sit down with someone like Tess, and then she she's coming out with way better lines, or improving the lines that I had. But you know what? It's in the blood. I mean, again, Uncle Lefty, grandmother Dottie West. I mean, we're talking two amazing songwriters, so she should be good.
Well, if she's still watching, the invitation's open. I hope she'll check us out. We should be down there sometime soon here in Nashville to do some taping. We've got some exciting news on the way for that here in the next couple of weeks here. So I hope everybody will hang out for that. In the meantime, if folks want to go and download your music or keep tabs on your touring schedule and all that good stuff, where can they go to do that?
BobbyTomberlinmusic.com, and then of course social media, Bobby Tomberlin. Hey, I wanted to add something. You just mentioned that Yvonne Atkinson was watching. You're not going to believe she used to call me when I was 11, 12 years old at the radio station. She would call and request. I can still remember that. I can remember her calling, and let me see, what did she? Let me really test my memory. She loved to hear Hank Williams. She loved Don Williams. But isn't that something all these years later? So Yvonne, I used to say, thanks for listening. Thank you for watching.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, you want to talk about building a grassroots fan base? That one goes back.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
You didn't realize you were building it at 11 years old, did you?
No, I didn't. I was just happy to cue up a record and turn on that microphone.
When most kids were throwing papers or scrounging for pop cans for money.
Yeah, I was counting down the days to the next concert. I mean, I literally it's 63 days till Ronnie Millsap and Frizzell and West are in Troy, Alabama. Okay, 59, 58. I mean, ate up with it now. I'm telling you. I did love Fish, though.
And that I see they let you sign the station on the air every day?
Well, I was afternoon shift after school. I would sign it off.
Okay, that's what it was.
And then I signed on Saturday morning. My mother would get up, early. I mean, I still can't believe she did that. Get up early and take me to that radio station at 5 o'clock in the morning. It would be freezing. I still remember that little heater, and it felt so good to flip those switches, the transmitter, and then, good morning, everyone. This is Bobby T on WLVN 1080 on your AM dial. Hope you're having a great morning. Hope you slept well. Here's Don Williams.
Wow. Any what do you think if songwriting, if you wouldn't have gone down that track, if you wouldn't have pursued it, do you think you would have been a career radio guy, or what else could you have seen yourself doing?
If I could get a gig, I mean, yeah, I would have done radio. I miss radio. I still love it.
And well, you still got the voice for it, and you got the voice for singing country music. And I tell you what, and I'll just say this out here publicly, I can't tell you how much your friendship means to me, and the times that you've been willing to come on and do this show here. It means the world, and I could sit here all day and listen to these stories.
Well, it means the world to me too, because you've been very, I used the word consistent earlier. You've been one of those consistent people. You're just kind. Every time I see you, it's the same. It's not like, okay, we're doing an interview today, and then I see you a week later and you don't even know who I am. So thank you. Well,
I tell you what, I have not enough people in my corner to be running around acting that way. So, I value every relationship I have here. So this is one that means a lot to me, and it means a lot that you took the time out of your day, especially with other things going on, to do that. And I hope you come back again here soon. I really appreciate you joining us here on Inside Farm Life. And when we return to these live tapings here in another month or so, I would love for you to swing through and we can kind of pick up the conversation there.
Well, we'll do it, and let's definitely do Montgomery, the Hank Williams Museum.
Definitely. Well, we'll get that on the calendar here, and got a lot. Make sure you're watching this Farm Life Facebook page here. We've got a lot of comings and goings. We got a new website that's poised to launch here. We've been working with the folks at Bubble Up. They do great work. They put out there the sites for Alan Jackson and Brad Paisley, Kenny Chesney, Luke Bryan, even down to Kiss, Aerosmith, and Jimmy Buffett. And they're getting ready to launch the new website here for farmlifemedia.com. That's going to be coming online here in the next couple of weeks. So be watching that. We're going to have an events calendar on there. You can check everything we've got going on here. We're going to have those live stream tapings, the live in-person tapings, shows, farm shows, conferences, conventions, the whole 9 yards. So we hope you'll come back for that. And I hope you come back here again tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, as Brandon Deal hosts Farm Life Live. His special guest is going to be Oregon dairy farmer Derek Josie of TDF Honest Farming. He's a guy that's very passionate about agriculture and in particular dairy farming. So I hope you go check that out again, 8 o'clock Eastern here tonight for Farm Life Live. In the meantime, we invite you to subscribe to the Inside Farm Life podcast, where each week we bring you the agriculture newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational features, and the best in true country music. And we also have the this podcast here can be found at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Deezer, Audible, Odyssey, and YouTube. And we want to say a special thank you to the folks at AGCO, who are the presenting sponsors of today's live stream. AGCO is going to be the presenting sponsor of all Inside Farm Life shows for the month of August. And I hope, again, you go check them out at the Farm Progress Show next week in Decatur, Illinois, where many of their farm products are going to be on display there. Again, you can find them online at agcocorp.com. At the show, they're going to be in lot 303, and I'll be there with a mobile studio doing interviews throughout the show. One of the first opportunities we've had in a year and a half to get out and see people here at these farm shows. So hope you get a chance to come out there and say hi. One of the biggest outdoor farm events in the country, and it's going to be a good time. So if you're in the area, stop by and say hi. We'd love to meet you here and hear about your farming operation. We also want to say a special thank you to our additional sponsors, GoatLifeClothing.com, our pal Mark Ryder, whose booming voice you hear open and close the show here. Also Concept Agritech and Gateway Seed. Well, friends and neighbors, the clock on the wall tells us it's time to get on out of here. So until next time, it's Brent Adams. I hope you'll come back again. And when you do, I hope you bring along a friend.
You've been listening to Inside Farm Life, a production of Farm Life Media. If you have topic suggestions for future episodes, drop us a line at brent@farmlifemedia.com. And be sure to check out our website, farmlifemedia.com.